Do you want to hear about a newbie author mistake that I made that's kind of a mistake, but also kind of not a mistake, but it's a very interesting story that you can learn from? Okay, so back at the beginning of my career, actually well before I was published, I'm not even sure I was querying at that point. I do not remember, it was so long ago. I was involved in author groups, so I guess it must have been in my earlier days when I was involved in the author groups and kind of behaving as an author. I saw a call for an anthology. And it was a fun group that I was a part of. I kind of liked the authors. It was a really good conversation. I don't even think that group exists anymore. And they were going to do a Christmas anthology. And so they were putting on a call. It was a very short story. And I said, I see an opportunity. Let's go. And so I wrote a short story and I submitted it. It was part of the anthology. It is out in that anthology to this day. I actually don't know if it still exists or not. I did not claim it when I became an author because the cover was not good. They didn't do a great job putting it together, but it was my first experience. What can I say? And so it is not connected to my author platform. Don't tell anybody. I don't want it connected. Don't rat me out. I don't even think my name's connected to it because I don't think they put all of our names on it, but don't tell anybody. And so I wrote a story. It's called The Christmas of Ice. And here's where the mistake comes in. I wrote this Christmassy story in genres that I don't write in. I have never had any interest in writing contemporary stories or romance stories or contemporary romance stories. And I wrote a short story. It's a cute short story. It was kind of inspired by some stuff that happened in my real life. And it's about this girl who goes out caroling with her boyfriend and a bunch of their friends, and then he proposes, and it's like, it's a Christmas of Ice. You get it? It was a short story. I was young. It's fine. But it was an interesting experience for me to be a part of an anthology because I got to see the behind the scenes. I got to write something. I got to be a published person. I think it was just digital. I don't think it was print. I certainly didn't get a print copy of it. But the thing is, you can do things like that. It may not serve your career to do things like that early on. I actually do not recommend your first foray in the publishing space to be part of an anthology. I do recommend it to be a full-length novel of your own, not even a novella, but you can do what you want. I saw an opportunity and I said, great, let's go. I'm doing all these other things. I'm making all these other steps. This sounds like fun. I'm going to go ahead and do it for the experience so I know what I'm getting myself into. And so I put out this story that has nothing to do with what I write. I write sci-fi, I write fantasy, I write young adult, I write retellings, I write things that are interesting to me, and modern society simply is not interesting to me. And so I am not somebody who really wants to do too much contemporary. My closest connection to contemporary is in my thrillers and my mysteries that I'm working on that are not out in the public yet, so y'all don't know about them yet. But I wrote in a genre that didn't serve me. Now, if I had more thought that I put into it back then, if I had more knowledge and experience, I would have written something that aligned better with the future books that I would be putting out because I knew where I was going. I just said, great, I'm going to have a published piece, and I wrote what I thought would fit into this novella or into the anthology. And it did. It fit in great. It was a great story. It's a great little story. It's a cute little story, and there was a time when I gave the story out for free at Christmas time early on in my author career, so some of you very well might have copies of this. But it didn't serve my author career. So if you are going to be a part of an anthology, don't do it just for the sake of being a part of an anthology. Do it to have a connection to your career. If you do not write contemporary and it's a contemporary thing, it's not going to serve you. While you can do it, it's not going to benefit your career. It's not going to help, and it could potentially confuse what you are doing. And like I said, if you're a newbie, don't make your first foray into the publishing world something that is not fully on you. This is connected to a bunch of other people, a bunch of other things, and it doesn't put you in the spotlight like it should. So your very first book should be solely yours. Don't do an anthology. Do anthologies later. Those are fun. They're great learning experiences. They're great ways to market. And again, anthologies are for marketing purposes, not for money-making purposes. But it's not going to push the needle in your career. So be smart about when you do anthologies, and then be smart about the genres you're writing in. If it's not a good fit for the rest of your work, don't do it. I have a story in a book that has nothing to do with anything that I do. I don't think it exists too much anymore. It never got a ton of press. It was never a great learning experience for me, but I did learn that it wasn't going to serve me, and it's probably not going to serve many of you as well. So this exists. This has actually had several different covers because eventually I realized I could pull it out and use it as a freebie at Christmas time for you guys. And so I've done some different covers, different things with it, but it never had any impact on my career and could have potentially had some negative impact on my career. So be smarter than me. Don't jump in just for the sake of jumping in. Make sure you're doing things that are cohesive with your branding and what you're going to be doing in your career. And don't waste your time doing things that are not going to serve you. This was an experience. It was a learning experience. It was a good learning experience. It wasn't negative in any way, but it didn't serve me. And it's not something I would do again. So, young authors, take note, and then decide how you're going to implement this into your writing and author strategy to implement this into what you're doing, to make this a successful career for you, where you're not just desperately trying things or trying things for the fun of it or trying things for the experience of it. Be smart about how you do this and plan your career wisely. Drop your questions down below. If you've read this one, go ahead and let me know. It's a fun little read. It truly is. And I mean, it's a good little read. I could figure out how to make contemporary modern world interesting to you guys. I just have no interest in doing so. So try things out, see what works for you, but then make wise decisions on it. We'll see you in tomorrow's episode.